Welcome. I believe we're recording now. This is Evernym's Indy team. Indy teams, there's two teams. We're doing the 16th sprint of the year. And this sprint is exciting because we've delivered two releases. We delivered a release of Indy Node, the 160 release, which contains a number of improvements, and we're excited. It should be ready for widespread usage on the Indy network. Our goal is to get this pushed to the live network over the next 6 weeks or so. Hopefully much shorter than that, but needs to go through review by the Sovereign Foundation, and we'll probably have to do some additional fixes before it can get pushed, but that's the goal. We also did a release for the Indy SDK. This was the 162 release. It was a lot of bug fixes, so we didn't feel like it merited a 1.7. Not a lot of new features, but significant improvements under the hood, including some changes to validator info, and well, we'll talk about that when the team does their demo. So that's what we completed. It's impressive, even with people on vacation and people assisting other Evernym teams, that this team was still able to produce significant value, retired a lot of story points. So that was exciting to see. Both teams did an excellent job. So today we're going to get a demo from Artem. He's going to show one of the goals we have is this release of the Indy Node is expected to be able to work with a sovereign payment system. And once we can accept payments, we don't need trust anchors for every write to the ledger. So we want to make those permissions configurable so that you can either use trust anchors or you can use a payment system. We've also been pounding the system with a lot of load tests, and Vladimir is going to explain the load testing we've done and the results. Makes us excited to deploy this on this ledger. And then we'll look, the SDK team will show us what they did, improved ways to get actions from the pool, specifically to read the information off the ledger, read the validator information to see the current state of all the nodes. And we also changed the encryption algorithm for the wallets to work better on mobile devices. I want to recognize that was a concern raised by the Evernym mobile team, and we were able to turn that around very quickly. That was raised halfway through the sprint, and we were able to the team was able to come up with a solution and get it implemented. So I want to thank the team for making their colleagues' comfort a priority and solving that problem so the other teams can complete their work. With that, I'll stop sharing my screen. And Artem, you're welcome to share your screen.
Yeah, thanks. Hello, everyone. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Nice. Well, today I'm going to tell you about changes in write permission for domain transactions. Before this moment, only trustee, steward, and trust anchors could write transactions such as name, claim dev, schema, and revocation transactions. So we needed to allow clients to write such a transactions. It was decided to make this behavior optional. It will depend on flag set up in config. That flag named anyone can write. By default, it's set to false. So when it's false, only privileged users can write any of domain transactions. And if this flag in config will be set to true, then usual clients could grant access to write domain transactions. Here is some tests to check that behavior is working when we set in that flag to true and check in such transactions as name, trip, and etc. And so on. Also transactions that they could not be done if that flag set to false. As you can see here, these tests are passed. More detailed permission table that we plan to realize can be found in 1528 ticket comment. It's written by Alex Sherbakov. That's all that I wanted to tell you. Thanks.
Thanks, Artem. It's we shared that with the Sovereign Foundation, and they appreciated the detail on what permissions work in which configuration. Nathan, did you have any questions? Nathan's on mute.
There's been some questions from the community in terms of what the plan is to support what would be a hybrid model into the future. Do we believe that we have infrastructure to allow both payment directly as well as a different payment for the permissioning mode, or is that something that's planned for later?
One of the reasons why we didn't remove trust anchors completely was because the Sovereign Foundation sounded like they were interested in that hybrid. So both capabilities exist in the system, but we haven't done anything we don't understand what a hybrid model might look like enough to have done any work towards that at this point in time, except to preserve the concept of a trust anchor and the concept of a permission scheme.
So technically both ways are possible. So we can allow anyone to write to the ledger as Artem just showed, and the old schema of permissions is still available, as Richard said. So technically it will be possible to support the hybrid model as well once we get enough requirements for this.
Yeah, one of the compromises we made in order to get this done quickly was to have that flag be set in the node configuration, which is a bit odd since it's a ledger configuration. Since it affects the entire network. And so in the future, we'd be interested, in the future, we would like to move that to the whole permission scheme to the ledger, and make it flexible so that any deployment of Indy Node can say, we would like these permissions, these roles with these permissions, and be able to configure that in a much more fine-grained way. But we didn't implement any of that immediately. So, but we did create a ticket for that future work of moving it to the ledger. I think we created a ticket. I put it on my list. I thought I actually did it. I'll have to check. Any other questions about the future work that we haven't done?
No, adding the fee support is very interesting. Thank you.
Excellent. And Nathan, we'll keep asking you about each of the things we're demoing because you're the key non-team member stakeholder that attended, so we appreciate that. We like the opportunity to get your feedback on things. So Vladimir, you're welcome to share your screen.
Hello.
Your mic volume is pretty low, Vladimir, so you might have to yell.
Now you can hear me?
We can hear you, it's just a little soft.
Okay. We performed a bunch of load tests last sprint, and you can find detailed results in our load and performance spreadsheet. I just want to provide a short summary of these results. The first result is that we sustain 10 writing transaction, 10 writing and 100 reading transactions per second with all transaction types load except payments, and we continue working on payment load now since there were some issues with load script. The second one is that we have expected out of memory and view change issues due to denial of service load cases. Also, pool continues to process transactions even after it starts to reject new transactions from clients due to denial of service attacks. And the third one is that bad pool network almost doesn't influence performance and stability of our pool since slow inner pool network also slows down client-to-pool interoperability, and we have also we have less difference between pool nodes ledgers during the load of this type. So that's all from me.
And these tests were performed with the sovereign payment ledger installed or without it?
All these cases were performed against 25 nodes pool with enabled token plugins.
Okay.
So even if we didn't send payments, but plugins were active during the load cases.
Yes,
Yeah.
but if you don't send any payments, transactions, then you know that there is no code from the plugins actually invoked and called. But in any case, yes, so they were there, so it's also kind of a proof that at least there is no degradation if it's just installed and all existing transactions such as names are working according to old rules.
But to clarify, the NIM transactions in this case did not require payment?
No.
What do you mean by not required payments?
So I'm asking if we were using tokens to pay for the transactions, would we expect the same numbers or lesser numbers?
I think there can be lesser numbers than this, but this test is still in progress since there are some, the first stable build of plugins was issued, I believe, just
yes,
a couple of days ago. Yeah.
I think this question is about fees for our transactions. So fees were not enabled also. So payment transactions and fees enabling is in progress. I think Nikita is working now even just on payment transaction without fees. So it will be tested later.
So I was looking at rows 15 and 16, where 15, so our goal is to have 10 writes a second and 100 reads per second as a minimum. And we're only getting half of what's expected in row 15. And I was trying to figure out, so we've got half as many clients writing at a time?
Yes, it was the first case with increased pool network latency. So in the next row, you can see our target results with twice more clients to read and write.
So the bottleneck was the network because the clients couldn't produce enough load.
Yes. When we have an increased pool network latency, our clients also are slow it down.
Yep.
So when I increased the latency, I also increased, as you can see, the number of clients to make reads and writes.
Okay. So, and we can get up to 20, which is great.
20, but just NIMs.
Okay, just them. But the key place where we were concerned, where we're only getting 4 writes per second, it's the payments that are slowing us down so much.
No, but I believe that's not because the ledger. I believe this was just kind of the input less than 10 per second. So this test is still in progress because the throughput, it really depends on what is the input from the clients. So if the input was, for example, 5 per second, then the throughput will also be not more than. Yeah.
So we have 5 clients doing 200 threads each on row 11.
Yes, but I believe they don't. Not every client doesn't send write and read transactions every second. So there's kind of distribution, so that every client sends, for example, one transaction per 10 seconds, so that it's in total 10 writes per second from all clients and 100 reads per second from all clients.
So you think as we increase that to more clients that the throughput will go through? It's not that we haven't taxed the ledger yet with the token.
We need to check it. This work is still in progress, so
okay.
Hopefully in a couple of days we can get more details about whether this is payments which are really slow or we just need to increase the load from clients and it will be better.
Nathan, did you have any other questions?
No, I'm just eager to see the results as we start to have a full test.
Yeah. Agreed. Thank you, Vladimir. Appreciate that. Sergey, you're welcome to share your screen.
We should let me tell first. Sergey has some problem with Zoom.
Okay, yeah, Artem, go ahead.
Hello everyone. My name is related to Libindi wallet. As you know, since Libindi 1.5, wallet is always encrypted and it take more time to perform wallet-related operation like creation, opening, and deleting. Some time ago, we got a report from mobile team that it takes about 40 seconds to create just a simple default wallet on mobile device. We wrote a test to reproduce their scenario and found that wallet creation operation takes about 1.5 seconds on my PC, and the key derivation operation is dominated in every wallet-related operation. We use this operation to get key-specific length for any human-readable password. For key derivation, we are using Evernym 2 Lipsodium algorithm. This algorithm was advised by Mike. This algorithm has different settings like moderate, interactive, and sensitive. So we used to use moderate settings. We tried different of them and found that interactive settings takes less time. But the setting is less secure than moderate. So we have updated wallet credentials and we added the additional parameter key derivation method. This parameter can set two different algorithms. First one is moderated and second was interactive. By default is used moderate as it was in the previous versions of the Libindi. And also we can pass interactive and significant reduced time required for wallet-related operation. Here you can see the results we got. So it takes about 5 times less time to perform wallet operation. Also, I'd like to notice that it's we save back compatibility of Libindi wallets, so we can export wallet of previous version of Libindi and successfully import it in the new version. That's it. Thank you.
Yeah, just one word to add. Seems this interactive algorithm time is not enough for agency use case too. So we need some less strong algorithm that requires less calculations for key derivation for agency use case. And maybe we'll discuss this with Mike, and maybe for agency we can allow to store plain key without key derivation. So it is under question. So in the future, there can be added new additional options for key derivation in the wallet. But we have now infrastructure that allow to add these new options in a backward compatible manner.
That's good to know. But it is good enough for the mobile use case, is it?
Yeah. It opening wallet requires about 1 second, and as I understand, on mobile devices, and it is acceptable.
Excellent. Thank you. That's useful to recognize. I wasn't aware of the concerns on the agency side, so I'll have to dig into that with you. Excellent. Nathan is our honored guest. Any other questions?
No. As we move to open source more of the agent or reference agent code, I do have some questions on how some of the agency dependencies will interact with that. And I think we can talk about that offline.
Yeah, we've got a lot of unresolved questions there too. So we'll work on that together. Sergey, rejoin Zoom. Is it working?
Thank you, Richard. Yeah, it sounds like working now. Let me share my screen. Unfortunately, I have full crash on Zoom and should restart my computer, so I will prepare from scratch. As you may know, there is a set of requests to the ledger which have specific behavior from Indy SDK user's point of view. We call it actions, and this type of request doesn't require consensus response, but it's more useful to collect and present separate response from each nodes. In previous version of API, there is no special call for these purposes, and there is some problematic to use for some cases. In this sprint, we have updated SDK API. Now you should see my browser with new call. We call it Indy submit action. And for this call, you can specify specific lists of nodes to send requests and also separate timeout for it. Let me share some use cases by using Indy CLI. Okay, here's my console. Let's start Indy CLI. I have some prepared wallets. Let's open it. And let me start my development Docker network. Okay. Let's connect to the Docker network. Sounds like it's starting right now. Okay, connected. Let me firstly share how get validated for command, for example, works in previous version of API. I should use some trusted DID. I have one for my development network. And from this DID, I can send ledger get validated for command. And now you can see a response from all nodes. It's immediately because it's my local node, local pool. So you can see 4 responses for 4 nodes. And it's okay while you haven't any problems with network or nodes or something else. For example, if we stop some node, let's do it. Oops. Now all four nodes are working well. Let's stop one. Okay, stop it. And for this case, if we try to perform this operation without, in an old manner, without any additional params, we will wait about 100 seconds to all response from nodes or timeout triggered by Indy libindy. Let's limit this timeout. It's a new functionality. And right now, we actually already received 3 responses from 3 working nodes, but still waiting for the last one. And in new API, we can specify time for this waiting, but in old API, we should wait default timeout. Here you can see all response and timeout from last nodes. So this is one workaround to don't wait too much time and try to collect required response more or less immediately. And another workaround, another way to obtain only required responses is explicitly specify a list of nodes which information we are really interested in it. For example, I would like to fetch information only from first and the second node. In this case, I can immediately receive response from the first and from the second. So I show some usage for get validator info command. Also, there is second command which can be submitted via Actions API. It's a ledger to restart. I would like to switch from trusted to simple user to don't perform actual restart, but just show you that it's also works for this command. One more parameter. Okay, now we can see response only from 2 first nodes as we ask to pull restart for this, and don't wait and don't perform restarting for third and for second for fourth nodes. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And this was raised by Corin, who's been doing a lot of automated testing against the system, and so it's going to be really, these improvements will make it much easier to read the results into an automated system and check for consistency. So thank you for that. I know, Nathan, we hit the top of the hour. You need to go. Any last questions?
No, just these improvements that will help us understand the system and be able to add more information to what's going on are very helpful.
Excellent. So the next sprint, we're working on additional bug fixes to the SDK. We'd like to improve logging. We're also figuring out how to help application developers see the difference between the values on the ledger and what marketing calls a payment unit, like a token or a Bitcoin. On Indy Node, we're also have some high priority fixes we want to get into a service back release. So specifically, we're improving the way BLS signatures work, and we're also there were some exceptions that were found during testing in strange corner cases we're cleaning up. So we're looking forward in 2 weeks. We'll show you the results of that work. So thank you. I'll stop the recording.